It might take you a long time, but if you've got the idea, try and work it out and actually make it happen. Hi, and welcome back to Chase Your Extraordinary podcast. Today's episode, I am thrilled to introduce to you my friend, my shiro, my mentor, even though she didn't know it, the marvelous Mimi Anderson. I was thrilled to be able to do this interview. I'd attempted to interview her once before in 2021. It was at the end of a cycle that we did together. I attempted to cycle the North Coast 500 with Mimi. I hung on to her back wheel for as long as possible, and it was me that cut the adventure short. We didn't do the 500 miles, we did 500 kilometers. I was absolutely battered at the end. I attempted to interview Mimi. It's taken another, 4 years to finally get round to doing this podcast, and her story is absolutely incredible. We go beyond we talk about her big world records, but we go beyond that and meet the person, the woman behind all of that, and the real life of things not going quite to plan, and how she has pivoted and bounced back, and she is just totally amazing, or marvelous, as her name suggests. So without further ado, here is the marvelous Mimi Anderson.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chase Your Extraordinary. Today I am delighted to be joined by Mimi Anderson, an endurance athlete, an author and a motivational speaker, and someone whose story truly embodies something that means to chase your extraordinary. From taking on the toughest challenges of endurance and challenges in the world, using movement as a way to rebuild both body and mind, Mimi's journey is nothing short of inspiring. So Mimi, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So Mimi, people often look at achievements first, but I would like to rewind back a bit. So before endurance racing became part of your life, what did your world look like?
Ooh, there we go. That's a difficult one, isn't it? I left school. I was quite sporty at school. I had an eating disorder for many years. So from the age of about 15, all the way up until about 30, had an eating disorder. I was quite lucky that I managed to have 3 children, which is fantastic. I've now got 4 grandchildren. And I was basically, I was a housewife. So didn't really do very much at all. I didn't do any exercise. I liked my glass of wine, or 2. I even smoked cigarettes, which, of course I shouldn't have done because I'm an asthmatic, but never mind, that's what I did. So I did everything that I shouldn't have done, but I had a great time doing it. So, and then I discovered my running.
So what about running first hooked you, and how did something like that quite simply grow into these huge challenges that you have done?
I mean, it started purely because I wanted to have thinner legs, and I remember standing outside the playground with my eldest, who was 2.5 at the time, and mentioning to, I don't know, one of the mothers there that I wanted to have thinner legs, and so she said, "Well, why don't you try running?" Now, this was 1999, I think it was. And, back then you didn't see loads of people running around parks or roads or anything like you do now. So I literally took myself off to my local gym where I used to do step classes and things. Never occurred to me to actually go upstairs and use the gym and get on the treadmill. And, got on the treadmill and pressed the button, convinced I was going to fall off the back. Thankfully I didn't. And that was the start of my journey, really. I built myself up from being able to hardly breathe, let alone run on the treadmill. And I then achieved my first mile, which, as you can imagine, I was ecstatic about. And then after that, I managed to do 3 miles. And at that stage, I consider myself to be a complete, absolute runner. I was now officially a runner, but I hadn't actually at that stage run outside. So it wasn't until probably a few weeks later, when I was in Kent at this stage, where some friends said to me, "Why don't you come and join us for a 10-mile run?" And one part of me was quite excited. I thought, 10 miles? Can I do 10 miles? I had no idea. And it was 7 miles further than I'd ever done before. So I took up the challenge and absolutely loved it. Really enjoyed it. Could hardly walk the next day, but it was that feeling of just elation when you'd done something you never thought that you could achieve. And that was it. Much to my husband's annoyance, I think. That was the beginning of my running.
So was there a moment early on, obviously you said you did a mile and then 3 miles, that you thought, actually, maybe I am capable of more than I thought? Or did that build over time?
No, that definitely built over time because, again, I mean, I didn't know much about running at all. It wasn't something that I followed necessarily. I didn't really know anything about the marathon or even half marathons, and I was very, very naive, I think. So, and I certainly had never heard of any of the extreme races like the Marathon des Sables and things. And again, in those days, there weren't that many big events in the UK. There wasn't even a 100-mile race at that stage in the UK. So I hadn't heard really of anything until I entered my first half marathon. And then it all started sort of falling into place a bit more. So no, I mean, for me, it was literally do a mile, then I can do 3 miles, and then I managed to do 10, and then it progressed from there. So yeah.
So you've reached some extreme environments, some intense heat, freezing cold, and long day with very little comfort. When things get really tough out there, what goes through your mind?
I have a image in my mind. So when I get really, I'm one of these people that if I get frustrated or I find something sort of hard, at one point I will just literally burst into tears. And it's not tears of sadness, it's just tears of sort of frustration. But if I'm struggling, and I usually struggle sort of in the middle bit of the race, so just before halfway, I usually have sort of a bit of a bad patch. And for me, I then have a picture in my mind of my family, and they're at the finish line holding the medal, and I'm running towards them with my arms open above my head. And of course, they're never there at the finish line, ever. But that's the image that I have. And it's a very strong one for me because I know that, they are supporting me. So that sort of gets me through the bad patch that I'm going through at the time. I mean, I have a few more things that I do as well, but that's the main one that I do.
So a lot of people focus on the physical side of endurance racing, but the mental side is huge. And you said how you image and picture your family. So how do you train your mindset for moments like this, especially when they're telling you to stop doing this?
I think a lot of that comes with experience. The first race I did was a marathon or event that I did in training for the Marathon des Sables. And the three of us went out with full backpacks on, which weighed much more than they would do now. And it was 2 loops of 13 miles. And I struggled to even do the first loop because my asthma got really bad and I could hardly breathe. So for me, that was a real disappointment and I felt very, negative, I suppose, and sad and cross with myself that I hadn't been able to complete something that I'd set out to do. But, looking at it, once I'd, calmed down and relaxed a little bit more, I realised that actually I'd made the right decision. I couldn't breathe. There was no way that I was going to be able to go around and do the other 13 miles. So that, that's a learning curve. That changes your mindset. And each race that you do, you get yourself into different situations. You can be in a situation where something breaks if you're running. You have to be able to fix it. You can run out of water. What do? Your GPS stops working in the middle of India, in the middle of nowhere, and you have to work out. You can't panic because there's nobody there to help you. So you have to work out a way of either fixing it or, moving forward. So each race that you do, you get stronger because you know that you can push through it. So I think sort of mentally that really helps. And I know that if I'm going through a really bad patch, apart from my visualization, I know that it won't last for very long. And I do a lot of talking to myself. So I will shout at myself and I'll get very frustrated with myself sometimes. And then suddenly you're running along and you think, oh, actually, I feel all right now. That's okay. And it's gone because it's only a moment in time. And you know that you're going to do that and you know that it will come to an end. But I think that develops, well, for me anyway, it developed as I became a sort of not a better runner, as I ran more distances and more races.
Mimi, you often hear the comment, you can't be what you can't see. But you started doing this at a time when there wasn't many women runners doing this. So there wasn't too many people ahead of you that you could see. So how did you, what I'm hearing is that you actually learnt on the job. Did you have anybody that you could ask, or really was it just, I'm going to have to do this?
No, it was literally a case of I had to do it. There were very few women, as you said, who did what I did at that stage. Very few. I remember when I did the Marathon des Sables, this was 2001, there were 12 women from the UK. Now you're getting over 45. Each race I turned up to, there were very few women. You'd get the same 2 or 3 women who would turn up. So, it was very difficult. It was very male orientated. And I just had to get on with it. And, sometimes that was quite difficult. Running at night and things was sometimes a little bit scary. But again, I got on with it. It didn't occur to me that it was, I don't know, for me, it was just normal. It was totally normal. I didn't think about it actually, really. I thought, I want to run, I want to race. And the only way I'm going to be able to do it is to put one foot in front of the other and get on with it. It was difficult sometimes. The kit, as an example, wasn't geared around women at all. It was designed for small men, basically. And the races like they are now weren't designed for women. There was no sanitary wear anywhere. There was no. I didn't mind about the toilets and things because I just go behind the bush. Things like that. I just sort of got on with. So I think I sort of learnt on the job and just got on with what I wanted to do. Really. I didn't mind that there wasn't anybody else to question.
I was very lucky that you were trailblazing because I was behind you and I got to watch you, and I was able to learn from what you did. So I'm very grateful. So thank you. That was before I got to know you, but you were my the person who was up there on a pedestal, doing her thing and showing the way for women like me to do it. So thank you.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. Thank you. You see, again, that never occurred to me. It didn't occur to me that anybody would be remotely interested in me. You know, I just did a bit like you know, you do what you enjoy doing, and you do it for the love of it and the challenge. Don't get me wrong. You know, I love a challenge. I still do, even if I'm now, what, 63 or something. But it's, yeah, you just get on with it and believe you can do it.
So you've also been open about your recovery journey and how movement has played a huge role in that. So how did endurance sport help you rebuild your relationship with your body and yourself?
For me, it was a case of, like, I think, you know, many people with an eating disorder, you just hate your body. You know, it doesn't matter what anybody says about it. You look in the mirror and you don't see, you know, your image of yourself is very distorted. So I think what the endurance running did for me was, you know, having always wanted thinner legs, but when I finally got my thinner legs after my John O'Groats Land's End world record, as my husband pointed out, he said, "But Mimi, they're disgusting." He said, "There's no muscle there. Your muscle has all been eaten away." He said, "They are revolting. Do you really want to have legs like that?" So there was a moment of joy because I thought, I have got my thinner legs. And then actually the realization that if I want to do the things that I love, I have to eat. And it wasn't about thin legs, it was having a strong body. And it was my strong body that was going to get me from A to B and B to C and C to D. So that's why. And it's, you know, I still have a bit of probably a weird relationship with food. I eat, I don't have a problem with that. But in order to do what I want to do, I have to eat. If I don't fuel my body, it just won't happen. And, you know, especially the older you get, you just look awful, you know. You get some saggy skin and all that sort of jazz. But it's about being strong. It's not about being thin or skinny. It's about being strong.
So were there any moments where you felt like quitting was a sensible option? And if so, what helped you keep going?
Did I? The answer to that, no, I didn't. It's never sensible. And well, it was. You know, sometimes obviously it is. I never got, apart from once, actually got to that stage where I had to quit. There are many times when you want to, and you know, you go through, and in my head, I'd go through, well, if I tripped now, or my foot went down a rabbit hole, or something like that, then I could pull out. And of course you don't. But every time you then get to a checkpoint, it's like being given a great big hug. So you continue going. You don't stop. You know, you think, well, I'll get to the next checkpoint and then I can pull out and I'll be all right. But of course you get to the next checkpoint and everybody goes, Mimi, how are you doing? You're doing so well. And all your sort of negativity goes away because all these people are sort of surrounding you and being really positive. The only time that I had to quit, and it was the right decision, it was a hard decision, but it was the right decision, was when I was running across America. And I was 3/4 of the way there. My body had to hold out for just, you know, I think it was 13 more days. And yeah, I couldn't do it. Physically couldn't do it. Mentally I could, but physically absolutely no. And so I had to make that call. And for me, that was a tough decision. But that's the only time that I've really had to do it, because you can always find, unless it's a medical issue, but you can always find the strength from somewhere to carry on moving forward. Doesn't have to be fast. You know, just literally one foot in front of the other. And then finally, you know, you'll get to stage and you think, oh, actually, do you know, I'm all right now. I'm over halfway. And, you know, mentally you pick up and off you go again.
So looking back now, would you say endurance has taught you more about life beyond running?
Yeah, I think so. I think it gives you a strength, doesn't it? It gives you a bit of self-belief. You have the courage to try things that perhaps, or before my running, I wouldn't have tried. Now if somebody suggests something, I mean, I won't jump out of an aeroplane, and there are certain things that I won't do. I don't particularly like swimming, but I actually did learn how to swim properly. I don't do it now, but I did learn how to swim because I thought, well, I've got to be able to do it properly. But it teaches you to be strong. If you have a setback, well, that's a setback. Learn from it and push on and find another way of doing it. There's always a solution somewhere. And I hope, and I think a little bit of that has also passed on to my children. They're all quite independent, strong adults now, which is really good. And hopefully they in turn will then pass that on to their children. So yeah, I think definitely it's taught me a huge amount.
So at the end of the shortened end of your across America, you could have just walked away, yeah. But you didn't, and you bounced. It wasn't easy, I know that, but you found a love in a different mode, that you were able to take this passion that you had here running, and you've done it equally in, as you say, biking. How did you do that?
Biking, I know. Oh, that was hard, Nikki. That was really hard. I think it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I remember watching Andy Murray's documentary. When he had, it's called Resurfacing, I think, when, about his hip replacement. And he said that it was a bit like a grieving process, because he thought he had to give up his tennis. And yeah, I'm not in the same league as Andy Murray, but for me, it was very similar. And I didn't know what to do with myself when I got home. I was a bit grumpy. I was rather miserable. And because I just thought, well, that's it, my life as I know it now is going to be completely different. And then I spoke to a friend of mine who, he's a northerner, he's lovely, Mark Cobain, absolutely fantastic, and he'd been through something similar to me with his knee. And so I knew if I spoke to him that he would, he'd tell me the truth. He wouldn't fluffy towel it with, you will be able to run again, you will be able to do this. And he suggested that I entered something called the Ride Across Britain, which is a bike race. It was 900, or just under 1,000 miles. So over 100 miles a day for 9 days, going from the south, Land's End, all the way up to John O'Groats. And I thought, wow, do you know something? It's the 10th anniversary of my world record coming from John O'Groats to Land's End. So it'd be quite good. I've run from north-south, and now I can cycle from south-north. And so I got onto the website. I had no idea whether I could cycle 100 miles. I mean, I could barely pedal. I didn't even have a bike at that stage. And I signed up for this thing. And, I had to go and get a bike. I had to learn how to clip in. I fell off about 9 times. So I reverted back to trainers. I now do clip in. But it took a while. Because every time I passed somebody who was running, in my head I was going, oh, I'd rather be doing that than this. So I had to have a real serious talking to myself to sort of just say, Mimi, you can't do that. You can do a bit of running, obviously, but you can't do that long stuff anymore. So pull yourself together and get on with what you can do. And that's what I did. And loved it, and I've never looked back.
So I know that you do get a joy out of cycling. I don't, but you have given your bikes names. Tell us the names of your bike.
I have. That's quite sad, isn't it? That's quite sad. Well, my first one, Mavis, she's now on my turbo, so I chat to her every day. And then I've got a road bike, live bike called Sylvia because she's grey, she's beautiful. And then I've got a lovely gravel bike called Pebbles, which Pebbles is fantastic. It has been painted, hand painted pink for me, so she is very beautiful. And I've recently got a fat bike, and much to Tim's annoyance actually, because that does take up a lot of space. And I'm lady captain this year at our local golf club, so she's called Lady Captain. 4 bikes.
And she's the bike you're about to ride on, isn't she?
She is, yes. I got her. I was very lucky actually. Yes. So this was about 6 months ago. Actually, probably longer than that. I got a phone call from the organizer of the 6633, which is the Arctic race that I did in 2007, saying, Mimi, we're putting on a fat bike race in the same area. Would you like to come? Well, never occurred to me to say no. Yeah, a bit like the running. Why would you say no? I'd never ridden in the snow before, still haven't actually, and it's in about 6 weeks' time. And I didn't have a fat bike. Again, it didn't occur to me that it was going to cost thousands of pounds. You just think, oh my goodness. And you just say, yes, I will be there. So I'm doing it with my friend Louise Minchin. And we've been training hard. And we've got a long bike ride actually next week with all the luggage and the bikes. And I was very lucky because I was actually given the bike by somebody, which was fantastic. And that's made a huge difference. And we've been sponsored by a lot of the kit and things. So yeah, it's fab. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm very excited. I haven't got the hang of the tyres and the pressure and, because you run fat bike tyres really low pressure depending on what you're riding on. There's a lot of bouncing around, but at 63 years old, I am now very cool when you cycle past a school, when they're going into school, because they'll look at you and just think, oh my goodness, look at that bike. It's not look at her, it's look at the bike. It's great. Love it.
So for someone who is feeling stuck or starting their journey at the moment, what's one thing that you would let them know?
For me, it's not to be frightened. It's it is quite scary sometimes taking that step, isn't it? But just take that first step. It can be a tiny, tiny little one. So, if it's getting outside to go and ride a bike or go and do some running, it can be 5 minutes. Put on a pair of trainers, put on a pair of shoes and just walk around your garden, walk down the road. Do that a few times. Go and meet a friend and make it slightly longer. It doesn't have to be, oh my goodness, I'm going to go out and run 5 miles. Absolutely not. That will completely put you off any form of running because you will come back, your body will ache like nothing you've ever done before. You won't be able to breathe properly and you'll just think, well, I don't know what this running lark's all about. So literally put on a pair of trainers. They can be scruffy old trainers, it doesn't matter. And go out for 5, 10 minutes and then go home again. And then go out a couple of days later for 5, 10, 15 minutes and go home again. It's small steps, but those little small steps will lead to bigger steps and then other steps. And then you'll meet more people who are doing what you're doing and go and join them, Chat, go and have a coffee.
So you've done some incredible challenges over the years. How do you decide what challenges you do and how do you decide what your next one is?
When I was a runner, I'd have a list. And in fact, I had to give up the list because the list was getting ridiculously long and I could only fit a certain amount of races in a year. And of course, every year you're then adding on to another list. So for me, it was always about the distance. I like to obviously do anything over 100 miles. I like doing events where it's the inaugural event, so the first event of anything I love doing because you've got nobody to compare it to. You've got nobody to say, you know, if you go up that hill and you get to, oh my goodness, it's awful there. You just go and you enjoy the moment. And the location, you know, going to the Arctic, everybody thought I was absolutely bonkers because, again, women didn't really do that sort of type of thing. Never occurred to me that it would be remotely dangerous or frightening or anything like that. I absolutely loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was cold sometimes. I was falling asleep. There was one occasion I was just falling asleep uh, on the ice road. But you go back for more. So for me, it is the distance and the location of the race. And then I will absolutely sign up, and then I think about it. So I sign up first, then I think about the race or panic about it.
And have you got any favorite locations that you have been to on any of your challenges?
Yes, I loved the Arctic. That was quite special. I'd never been anywhere like that before. I loved the jungle. I went to the Peruvian jungle. That was amazing. You know, there was a butterfly there that was, you know, you opened it up, it was the size of my computer. It was just my laptop. It was just beautiful. It was this stunning, stunning blue colour. Oh, it's just lovely. And the trees, and it was a place, you know, you walk into the jungle for the first time and it literally takes your breath away. It is stunning, absolutely beautiful. Where else have I been? I've been to so many places. It's awful, isn't it? Fiji. I didn't like that so much actually because we had a cyclone and and it was very, very wet, as you can imagine. Badwater, Death Valley in America, absolutely just fantastic. You know, you go there and it's so hot you just can't imagine when the race takes place. But it is absolutely beautiful. You know, you've got everything there, mountains, salt flats. You know, the race actually starts below sea level, and it's very weird looking up and you've got this sign that says, you know, this is sea level, and you're sort of looking up at it. And then the Spartathlon. I mean, everywhere. I loved everywhere I went. Each race I did was very special.
So, Mimi, thank you so much for your story today. I know our listeners will learn a lot from this conversation. For anyone wanting to find out more about your work and your journey, where can they find you?
The best place probably is Instagram. So I'm Marvelous Mimi on Instagram. I do have a website, which is marvelousmimi.com as well, but mostly I'm on Instagram.
Thank you. We will link that in our description. So, thank you again, Mimi, for this interview today. And to everyone listening, wherever you are on your journey, keep moving forward. Until next time, keep chasing your extraordinary.
And I think I'm going to take you skydiving.
No, you're bloody not, I tell you. That's
Hello, welcome to the cool down after episode 2. Thank you for watching to the end and watching the whole episode of the wonderful or the marvellous Mimi Anderson. And you'll notice we're not in the same room for episode 2. I'm currently in Nottingham at home, and Nikki's over in Geelong in Australia with her family. So bit of a weird setup. We clearly are still finding our way in the podcasting world. Nick, is that fair to say?
I said we're muddling through.
We're muddling through and learning what to do. Productions, recording, editing. It's all a bit raw. That fair? Anyway.
That's a good description of it. Yep. Learning. It's a learning curve.
And we're getting better. Learning curve.
We will get better.
So Mimi, you enjoyed Mimi's interview, didn't you? Doing that, I know you sat in on it with Chloe. So how was it?
I loved chatting to Mimi. She's such a great storyteller and has so many stories to tell. So loved it, absolutely loved it. She was, when we filmed it, Mimi was just about to head off to the Arctic, but she has been. It didn't go to plan. She went on that adventure with Louise Minchin. They've both got frostbite. Louise worse than Mimi. But that's another story to tell, and we will have Mimi back on the podcast to share more about that at a later date.
So next episode, episode 3, will be out in 2 weeks. That'll be the wonderful Sam Douglas. I really enjoyed listening on this interview. You weren't there when Chloe was doing it, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
I wasn't there,
so
but I've edited it, and it's quite an emotional one. So yeah,
a moving one.
Moving.
So keep an eye. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. So if you want to keep an eye out for release dates, depending on what platform you're watching, like the video and the podcast, subscribe to it and you get notifications. One other thing we're trying to introduce, you see a lot of things with Buy Me a Coffee. What we'd love it is if you want to support the podcast in any way, is buy a buff. So we have our wonderful buffs, and there's a link down below on the website. They're not much. No more than a couple of coffees, so that'd be quite cool if you could do that.
No, it's about
it just shows a bit more support for the podcast.
It's about the same price as a coffee, and you get something for it, and you get to wear it, and we love our colours, and we hope that you will love our colours too.
So with that said, you're off to bed in a minute, aren't you? I'm off to work.
I'm heading to bed, you're off to work. Opposite sides of the world.
And we'll, thanks for watching again.
And subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye.